Do we Americans still have what it takes to compete at the top of MotoGP? Well, we don't have a rider on the grid, but we do have a team. Welcome back to another edition of 2025 MotoGP Midterm Report Cards. And today, if you haven't guessed it, we're going to be talking about Trackhouse Aprilia. Before we dig in, if you could please like, follow, share, subscribe, mash all the buttons so you get all the MotoGP content you can possibly imagine. So we're going to dig right in. We're going to talk about the riders. We're going to talk about the team, everything, give it grades. Here we go. And we're going to start with the rookie, Ogura, who came into this season swinging. 4th in the first sprint in Thailand. 5th in the first Grand Prix in Thailand. No one expected that. I think our expectations for a rookie who isn't like a Marc Marquez or a Pedro Acosta, our expectations are, well, I hope they score some points. And especially, from an Aldeguer, the expectations are a little bit different because he is on one of the best bikes on the grid and should be in front of some of the other riders just based on that. But when you're looking at the Aprilia, you all know how I feel about the Aprilia. I don't think it's quite there yet. So to see this guy running toward the front and battling with the top tier MotoGP riders in the very first week of the season, I'm ready to give the guy an A. But the season is a little bit longer than that. I will say overall, he has been really, really impressive. A slew of top 10s. He seems to always move forward on a Sunday. I have the number right here. He's usually around 15 seconds off the race lead. So as a MotoGP rookie, I think that's actually pretty good. Like I said, he always moves forward on a Sunday. It says it doesn't really matter where this guy qualifies. You look on Sunday, he's always moving up in the pack. He is a Sunday man, as they say. He is a racer. And he comes to show it every single week. Even in the weeks he hasn't done so well, qualified 18th or 19th, then he ekes himself into the points. And that first weekend really kind of solidified his stature in MotoGP, but was it enough to kind of keep him there? Well, unfortunately, he's seen a little bit of a dip in form. Obviously, he had that injury. He missed some times, but the last 3-4 weeks have not been great for him. I mean, he scored barely any points in the last 4 weekends coming up to the summer break. Obviously, again, injured, coming back from injury, missing rounds, and then going to Brno where he'd never really ridden. I mean, I think we hadn't been into Brno since 2020. He was not in MotoGP at 2020. I think, was he in Moto3 at that point? He was not a big competitor in the MotoGP paddock at that point, so it's a brand new track to him, a lot to learn, a very, very steep grade, and did not do great. So he's also had a couple DNFs. And besides the injury, so we have a lot of 0-point scoring weekends for him. I think it's 4 or 5 0-point scoring weekends, and he is 16th in the points. But he is ahead of riders like Bastianini, Rins, and Mir. Now, as far as my expectations, again, for he is the Moto2 reigning champion. I wasn't expecting him to be down in the dumps. I wanted to see him compete. We keep telling ourselves the Aprilia is the second best bike on the grid. It's time that they show it, right? Even a rookie should be able to be, in the mid-pack, in the top 10s. And I think the amount of top 10s he's had this year kind of means he's just about meeting expectations. Now then we go across the garage to Raul Fernandez. The first 5 weeks of the season couldn't be any different for a Raul than they were for I, because he scored 6 points across the first 5 weeks of the season. 6 points. Now, at the beginning of this season, we had one rider in this Trackhouse garage who's a rookie. What are our expectations? Fairly low. We have the other rider who's kind of, what we call him, a journeyman, even though he hasn't been on that many teams. He's a journeyman. And I think he's riding for his MotoGP career. I think he has to finish in the top 10, in the top 12. If he's finishing out of the points, he's going to find himself out of the paddock for good. So those first 5 weeks for Raul Fernandez were an utter disaster. Nothing went right. 6 points in 5 weeks. You're supposed to be this Trackhouse Aprilia's #1 rider. And with Aprilia having Jorge Martin out, they need someone to fly the flag. Now, yes, Bezzecchi also had a slow start, but not this slow, all right? So then we look down in the year. Look at his last 5 races. He scored 47 points in the last 5 rounds in MotoGP. He's come alive. 5th place finish last time out at Brno. He looked fast, he looked confident, he looked like a completely different rider on and off the bike. I'm not sure what someone said to that guy. I might have a clue. We'll talk about that later. But it seems like he is really coming to life. 8th in the points. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now he is, where is he in the points? He's 13th in the points, 2 behind KTM Brad Binder. And Brad Binder is supposed to be a lot further up. We're going to talk about that when we get to KTM. So 13th in the points, ahead of Miller, Marini, and his teammate, which is all good things. The other good things is despite that slow start, he's only had 2 rounds where he has scored 0 points. Better than I. He unfortunately had 2 other weekends where he only scored 1 point, so it's pretty close to a 0. What was I expecting from Raul Fernandez at the beginning of the season? I don't know. He's kind of an enigma. I feel like he shows flashes of speed, but can't quite figure out the consistency. Now, he's a lot of times about 30 seconds off the race lead by the end of the race. Even in these top 10, some of them are 25, 28, 30 seconds off the race lead. So we look across the garage at I being, 15, 18 seconds off the race lead. You have to say Raul isn't quite as competitive week in and week out. But these last 5 weeks have given me hope for him. So then let's look at Trackhouse as a team, at the whole team. They are currently, like I stumbled before, they're 8th in the championship. I'm right behind a very experienced Tech 3 KTM team. You have to remember, this is only Trackhouse's 2nd year. They're still figuring it out. They're still growing. So they have to get in there and get the right people in the right positions. I think they're doing that, but it's not going to happen overnight where they're going to be competing to be the best independent team. Now, where I would like to see them is to be the best independent team after the Ducati teams, right? We have VR46 and we have Gresini. Those are going to be, I think, the top 2 independent teams far and away. They're beating a lot of the factory teams. So then we have to look at the 2nd tier independent teams, which is your Tech 3, your Trackhouse, your Pramac, that kind of thing. And I think I want to see Trackhouse be that best of the rest. And right now they're standing behind KTM. And when you look at the KTM lineup, they also had 2 brand new riders to the machine. It should have given this Trackhouse team just a little bit of advantage despite having the rookie on their side. But they are a few points not too far out of the mix, so they still by the end of the year could vault Tech 3 and become that best of the rest independent team. What I like about what they're doing, my favorite thing Trackhouse has done all year long is bring in Manu Gonzalez for that Moto2's Manu Gonzalez, bring him in for that little test ride and give a little look at Raul Fernandez going, hey, there's another kid who wants your seat and he's pretty quick and he's hungry and he's going to put it all on the line. Even though he's in the middle of fighting for a title, he's going to put it all on a line to test our bike. I think that's what happened to Raul Fernandez. He saw Manu Gonzalez do that test and realized, you know what, I really have to buckle down. I really have to focus. How bad do I want this? Because if the results don't come, my job is gone. Manu Gonzalez does not want to wait. He is ready to be in MotoGP. That's what he thinks. Raul Fernandez is fighting for his right to stay there. And I think that was a great move by Trackhouse. I would like to see other teams do this. Let's look at Moto2. Who can we come up and just give him a test ride? Monday test, throw a Moto2 rider on the bike, see what they have. They might surprise you, or they might disappoint you and give you the exact feedback that you need to not make that decision. Could you imagine handing a contract to someone without any time working on that bike, and then, well, it's like a draft bust, right? You've sunk your resources into this guy and he's just not the guy. But giving him that test, giving him that opportunity on a MotoGP bike, kind of pit him against the other lap times that are being put on the same track, we can kind of tell where they are. I love that. And I think that was a great move by Trackhouse. Double thumbs up. Maybe that's the American in them, the American blood, get the competition going, a little bit of cutthroat, NFL style combine, like get in there and run a fast 40, son. Let's see what you can do. All right, so it's grade time. For Ogura, I am going to give him a B+. It would be an A. I wanted it to be an A really, really bad from the way he started the season, but these last 3 or 4 rounds have got me a little bit nervous. There's some rumors that at the beginning of the season, he was kind of riding the bike like a Moto2 bike, and now he kind of needs to adjust to the MotoGP bike, and it's not quite working out quite as well as it did at the beginning. But B+, pretty solid for a rookie. kind of where my expectations had him. I would have liked to give him a little bit higher, but again, the end of the season, or the end of the first half of the season is making me a tiny bit nervous. Then we go over to Raul Fernandez. I'm going to give Raul Fernandez a B-. Yes, I know, Raul Fernandez is ahead of Ogura in the points, but again, I'm measuring them against expectations, and I just expect him to be in the top 10 more. I expect him to be fighting with other riders more. I expect him to be moving forward more. I need some consistency out of here before I give this guy an A. It's just not an A. It's a B-. You'll have to live with that. Now, the team overall, I give them a B+ for the reasons I said. If they can beat Tech 3, if they can get ahead of Tech 3 in the point standings for the teams, this moves up to an A. That's where I expect them to be. That's where I want them to be. I want them to be the best of the rest. And when they do that, they get the A. But for now, it's a B+. And the plus comes from that Manu Gonzalez test. Just that. That alone gives them the plus in that B+. So there you go. There's my rankings for Trackhouse Aprilia. We have a bunch more teams to go over, so please come back for more mid-season report cards, and we will see you next time.